Let's do I've got to do Kanye West and Candace Owens walkout, and how dare they write this on their shirts. Tell people what they had on their shirts and what the freakout was.
Yeah, they wore shirts that said white lives matter. I cannot fathom the fact that white people have any value in our society. A reality, of course, we all know no one can change the skin color they were born with. You don't get to pick your parents or your racial makeup.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people feel very left behind and left out of this whole hierarchy that the left comes up with that's solely based on skin color. And so absolutely, I think that they should come out and say things like that. And we shouldn't be afraid of backing down just because we're afraid of being called racist, just because, we don't want to be called out, when in fact, we're not racist at all. We don't think there should be racism against anyone, whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever it is. There shouldn't be racism, but that's not racist. So we know that if we look back, BLM did not help Black lives. And I think
No.
that that's what they were trying to draw attention to.
To say white lives matter, and there are a couple of black people wearing those shirts, they're pushing back. And I just love that, because at some point we have to realize that Obama did 8 years of revenge politics. He did. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are just continuing that, maybe 2.0 of that. And we have to take a stand somewhere and say, wait a second, either we're all for one and one for all, or we're not. And if we're not, how does that look? And I think what they did is exactly right. What you're doing is exactly right when it comes to the book, The Choice. Go and get that. It's Danielle D'Souza Gill. I've got to talk about the nuttiness of NYU already is off the charts nuts. But if you're going to send your kid to NYU, it's going to cost a lot of money. And when you do, you want them to get the best education possible. And if I decide to be somebody who's going to take chemistry, man, you better teach me how to do it right. And because chemistry, of all other topics, you probably don't want to screw that up and blow up a city block. So what happened here? A professor got fired for what reason?
Yeah, the students complained that the class was too hard. They complained that the professor was too hard on them.
How
And
is
it's
it
like,
possible? It's chemistry. How's it too hard?
I know. Also, not to mention, usually organic chemistry is a prerequisite in order to become a doctor or go to medical school. So I'm thinking, if he just gives you guys A's, are you guys even going to be prepared to, use this degree to go onward and operate on people
Exactly
if
right.
needed?
Exactly.
But no, I think what happened during COVID is a lot of students, unfortunately, did not learn much. They were at home. They were, maybe looking at things on their computer, who knows?
Yeah.
And so they're very behind. And the left has created this culture where they're catered to, not in terms of what's actually best for them, which is learning and actually knowing these subjects, but is really catering to their feelings and making it so that everyone should get an A, making it so that, no one actually feels like they need to try hard, to study more, be pushed. And a lot of other countries, they're much more rigorous than we are when it comes to education, which is why we're falling behind. And these students, instead of saying, what, let me buckle down, let me maybe stay after class, let me learn these concepts, instead they say, how do I get my teacher fired? How do I go after him? And NYU, instead of saying, let's strive towards excellence, says, no, let's fire the professor who's a big old meanie.